Brookline Booksmith's author event series. We're very happy to have you all here tonight. My name is Kaylee, and I'm one of the event hosts here at the Booksmith. Tonight, I am very happy to introduce Usman Hameedi, Daniel Brooke Johnson, and Sejal Shah. And so before we get started tonight, I just wanted to note, if you have pre-ordered a book, you can pick it up over at our events space at the end of the event, and if you would like to buy books at the end of the event, you can purchase them at that same register at the end of the event. Thank you so much in advance for supporting our store and these authors by purchasing books with us. Sejal Shah is the author of the debut story collection, How to Make Your Mother Cry. She's also the author of This Is One Way to Dance, which was named one of NPR's best books of 2020 and recommended by the New York Times. How to Make Your Mother Cry defies traditional autofiction and short story conventions by weaving images and fiction letters to a beloved English teacher. Usman Hameedi is a Pakistani-American scientist, poet, and Mass Poetry's board chair. His debut collection, Staying Right Here, was published by Button Poetry, and his work has appeared in the Worcester Review and Insignia, a journal of narrative medicine. Usman's work is like drinking a warm chai while watching the sunset in Brooklyn, or coming home to an aromatic biryani. I absolutely love that description. Staying Right Here is for those who have looked for themselves in media and only seen one-dimensional characters staring right back at them. And Daniel Brooke Johnson is the author of Shadow Act, an elegy for journalist James Foley, published by McSweeney's and long-listed for the Massachusetts Book Award. Daniel Johnson is also the author of How to Catch a Falling Knife with Alice James Books. Shadow Act is the powerful act of documentary poetics in which Johnson chronicles the perils and joys of fatherhood and a shattering tragedy that plays out thousands of miles away. Nearly 2 years after the poet's closest friend went missing, journalist James Foley was executed by ISIS in Syria. Through his collection, Johnson speaks to his missing friend as Foley goes in and out of the book. This heartfelt collection tackles the question, how do you go on living, loving, and creating in the face of unthinkable loss? All of the proceeds from the sale of Shadow Act will benefit the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation, which advocates for the freedom of all Americans held hostage abroad and promotes the safety of journalists worldwide. Please help me welcome our authors as we get started. Thank you.
Hi folks, how's it going? So my name is Usman, and I'll walk you guys through my book. So my book is basically a biography of me. It's about finding home, and I discuss home quite a bit. So with that, I'd like to give you the title poem of this. It's called God Bless Delhi, speaks to my now gentrified neighborhood. Don't you dare Columbus us. Call us a hidden gem, BuzzFeed us into a taste for unfamiliar mouths. You cannot discover what's already rooted, flourishing before you even arrived. We've been here, bearded, black hair, Yemen's finest. Assalamu alaikum gafal hal, been Muslim, still Muslim. Before, during, and after 9/11, always halal, and to this day still delicious. Brother Alex, he's on the grill, a stainless steel Sahara. Watch the oil dance like it was Eid al-Fitr. Steam rises like the Adhan, and we recite the hadith of old New York City. Takbir to the egg and cheese on a roll, salt, pepper, ketchup, the 2 for $5 specials, the pilgrimage of chopped cheese into toasted bread, while the aroma of lamb over rice spills out of styrofoam so good. We could make a conservative Baptist say MashaAllah. So come, yalla, build your bodega app, your Subway restaurant, your artisanal bread shop, whatever you wish. Just understand that our hot sauce melts plexiglass. Wallahi, we have seasoned our French fries with the salt of bigoted tears since 2001. Born of arid earth, a life of heat and detonation. God bless is our oasis of opportunity. You are most welcome, but best believe, Hameedi, we plan on staying right here. So my book is about the defiance of folks that are resilient despite everything that's being thrown at them. And that's what I love about home. I grew up in New York City. I live in Massachusetts now, I live in Lexington, but I can never forget where I grew up. So this next poem is an ode to Jackson Heights. 77th and Roosevelt is the true JFK. Replace Boeing with the E, M, R, F, and 7. Barreling overhead subways, thousands unload onto crowded platforms. The spice hits you first, like peppers were plucked from the traffic lights. A hint of cologne and exhaust. It shouldn't work, but it absolutely does. Down the block, saris dyed in bright yellows and pinks and oranges, set next to fitted, trimmed kurtas, black, green, or blue, all with intricate embroidery. The go-to shops for Eid and Diwali, weddings too, bridal sets, gold necklaces, and rainbow bangles adorned at storefronts. Across the street, a class on haggling, like uncle didn't know that that was the price for Bangan. Aunties cutting lines like we don't see them. Sons forced to come to Jackson Heights, double parked on a one-way. Queue buses at the mercy of Hondas and Acuras. It's chaos, it's perfect. Praise the generations that brought a piece of home through customs, authentic outfits, palettes, and audacity. I've come today for samosas that soak brown paper bags with oil. Many mimic, but they're mild at best. My clothes taste these chilies. And I can't leave without chai. Boiling hot, light brown, fragrance of cardamom, cinnamon, and cloves. I finish every drop. The bottom of the cup is the saddest sight. I'm already homesick. So as most of y'all probably would agree, home is usually beautiful, but home also has its challenges. I felt really comfortable about being where I was in New York, but part of me always just wanted to leave. There's just so much going on. Heirloom. My uncle died with molasses blood, leg swollen into a sugar cane bundle, foot rotting, blackened banana, sap leaking from limbs. He's the maple that didn't drip too far from the scarred family tree. He joined the family plot, a graveyard with granulated crystal tombstones. I'm not sure who had it first, but I know we are a family of patience. Passed down from generations are honey-filled veins, hemoglobin frosted with glucose. Syrup sinks in water, but still crosses continents. Here in America, Ummi wept salt water when her brother died, reminisced on how barfi sweet he was, a smile and laugh memorable like dessert. Then she followed her own routine, pricked her finger to feed the glucose monitor. I have never known Abu living without insulin. He taught me the proper injection procedure, hold a syringe, give a patient a second chance, offered himself as clinical exposure for medical school applications. The more I kept learning about medicine and my family, I couldn't help but wonder if he was also preparing me for when our heirloom eventually becomes my own. So the first time I came to Massachusetts was for school. I got to Brain Ice. I was part of the Posse Foundation. I got a full scholarship to Brain Ice, and I always wanted to do something. You know, I saw how it was so difficult for my parents and my family in general to navigate through the healthcare system here in America as immigrants, and it was really tough. And I didn't realize then, but I was also still part of it was just running away. There's just so much going on at home, and I just couldn't deal with it. And I eventually learned that even if you run away, the problems are still there, and you have to face them eventually. Reflecting pool. On September 11th, 2001, Salman Hamdani, a Muslim American EMT with stethoscope palms, could not ignore a city in cardiac arrest. He returned home as soot and flesh found between steel and smoke. On 9/11, Salman rushed toward the Twin Towers, and that sacrifice was still not enough. Salman was brown, scientist, missing. Before folded American flag, he was suspect. Before human, we are a person of interest. To be a Muslim American is to carry the burden of proof that you are not a bomb ready to burst in air. By September 12th, Salman was dead in Lower Manhattan. But I did not know this, so I waited for him, turned rubble outside of his father's store. I spent hours there after school. Free chocolate, Pokemon cards, quarters for arcades. I was 11, chubby cheeks and wide eyes. Salman never said no to me. For months, I figured he would listen to my pleas to come home. At his funeral, I poured dirt onto his casket. Earth fell from my fingers like bodies on the 110th floor. His casket's frostbite skin left icicles on my knuckles. But year after year, I learned even colder was the American flag draped over it. If a racial slur hurled with a drone strike velocity targets a Muslim, will the explosion matter? Does a Muslim mushroom cloud make a sound? I was told Pakistan should be wiped off the map mere nights after his vigil. Flags waving to never forget, but what is patriotism to a body that is never enough for their country? Anniversaries came with montages of plane and fire. On the trauma highlight reel, Salman died on instant replay. Year after year until the 9/11 memorial was filled with selfie sticks. Cameras flashed like emergency response. I walked knowing most see me as a cause of tragedy. The suspect is not owed the rebirth of mourning. Mourning is not a Muslim privilege. Muslim blood doesn't soak into concrete on American soil. I carried the weight of his casket into adulthood. I could only be a pallbearer for so long. So I walked over to panel number S66, Mohammed Salman Hamdani etched in bronze. A new tower rises in place of his faded footprints. Here, in this renovated graveyard, I can see how far I have come. But I also know that being a Muslim American is like walking through a dust cloud apocalypse, wondering if anyone can see the debris on your skin. Time pauses in the reflecting pool. The air is so still. All I hear is a waterfall, sobbing into the earth. So as we'll hear a lot tonight, loss is a big part of life. Loss is something that we have to grapple with. You can't really run away from it. There's this thing that, like, if you have grief, you just kind of evolve around it. It's true. And I think what I've had to learn as I've grown up is just, I have to kind of find home for myself and find shelter for myself, because some days are just really tough. Like, there's a poem in here, it's about the conversation, I'm not gonna read it, but it's the conversation of 9/11 to January 6th, like what they would say to each other, right? And it's, the end of it is basically just, sometimes 9/11, you just forget that it happened. You know, as time progressed, it just feels like, oh yeah, it's September around here. I think because I'm obviously, you know, doing stuff with the book, I was kind of more conscious of it this year, but there have been years where I just forgot. And that's just, it was just a really poignant thing. But back to the point of finding home with yourself. This next poem, it's a golden shovel, which I highly recommend folks do. So let's say there's a piece of writing that you like a line. That line could be the end of your stanzas. So this is a golden shovel based on the poem from Natalie Handel called The City. And she was one of my professors. So there's no place like home. Dorothy was right. I know, but I'm still unsure of what home means. End up going in circles, tornado spiral of questions, until all I want to do is start over. Maybe home will be another country, not like America would miss me, or another city where I can start over, be just another body, faceless and pure. Won't a single person know all I'm missing? Maybe I'll find out home means anonymity, serene and alone with the responsibility to just me, become a whole new country and govern myself. All I know is I need a change, a new city. I tried to become a new body, update my wardrobe, new skins. Perhaps by altering my reflection, I'll deserve love. Maybe that's my problem. Drafting destinations, but my heart just wants community, not skyscrapers or bridges. Will anyone be there for me? Will they stop by and stay even when my world is uncertain? I could devise new plots and timelines along highways, destroy my history only to end up a gutted house, return to the same spot, this time with more debt to clean up, more time to make up, roam the same blocks I cursed, the same routines I hated. Traveling and running away aren't the same, especially when I carry all these unwieldy ruins, collapsed mausoleums built for my pride. Same wreckage will remain despite the new addresses. Streets aren't obligated to love me back. Home is where the heart is. A line I'm learning is meant literally. Rather than being restless, longing for refuge, I first owe my soul a guarantee that no matter what, I will be the home I need anyway. That's a true story, because there's like a part of me that was like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna move to Texas, I'm gonna move to Houston, right? And I'm just gonna join their slam team and we're just gonna make it happen. And that's just how I'm gonna do it. And then, but you can't really do that. You can't just run away and move to Texas. I know most people are like, why would you go to Texas? Texas has its good parts, I know, us New Englanders are sometimes like, why that? But, and in the concept of finding home, sometimes you need to return back and just see it from a new perspective. So, yeah, this second to last one is called Ki Banu Dunyada. Before backing out, I connect my music. Can you even drive a car without music? Dud on wheels, percussions make my speakers bhangra. I introduce myself with the timbre of my music. I'm loud because I must be heard. Never want to silence my music, but truthfully, I used to lower the volume, self-conscious about the foreign melodies of my music. A hyphenated identity is a multilingual two-sided cassette. Side A, instructions on assimilation, monotone music. Side B, too American now, off-key pitch, no depth in vocabulary. Our music is not your music. I listen to the wrong notes. You don't know the words. Why are you even listening to this music? Cacophonous opinions. Tumbi ka nachna, a rhythm I couldn't ignore. Sarangi Kagana called me, said Garajo, come home to music. I'm home. Abu's speakers say salam first. I hear my playlist. Guru Randhava, Diljit Dosanjh, same taste in music. I get my love for music from Abu. He knows his history like a vinyl record player. Needle drop quick recall of Desi music. After trading songs, we put on a Coke Studio throwback. Gurdasman is Abu's favorite singer. His music, that vibrato, mastery of vocal tones so powerful, he introduces me to ancestors with his music. This song, a harmony between generations, joined by Daljit, they ask, what is to become of the world if we silence our music, lose our sense of love, value in our traditions, pride in our languages? Songs can reconnect us if we just listen to the music. Still, nothing is solved with press play. Partition a fresh wound, trauma tender, diaspora with dysphoria trying to define home. Music matters, but we must also agree to be in concert. Bridges are giant harps, wind whispers, strumming cables. Music is loud enough to cross our differences. Abu left Pakistan for a prosperous life in America. Opportunity, a universal music, but so is the dole's heartbeat frequency, bringing us home together, listening to music. As I grow older, I'm more comfortable in my ancestral tongue. I out background noise, focus solely on my music. Samajhta hu Abu, but I need help understanding some phrases. I want to learn though. These songs move me. I love our music. Theek hai beta. Some people can only translate words. They still can't feel the poetry, hear the music. And lastly, before we hear from Daniel and Sejal, as mentioned, I'm Mass Poetry's board chair. And poetry quite literally saved my life. It's also an important threshold was crossed. I've been doing poetry longer than, for the majority of my life at this point. 34, I've been doing this since I was in high school. And it's really impactful for me to be Mass Poetry's board chair because the majority of what we do is give teens the spaces to do their own work. I mean, Daniel's our executive director, and I'm just really proud of that work. So this last poem is just sharing that story and why it's important to me. The human body is an ocean. The mysteries held within these waves are frightening. I've grown to trust these depths, but I haven't always been this brave. In high school, I was a quiet creek trying to find my voice. We were all soulful poets in training, with spit after school, poems, and J. Dilla instrumentals. Miss Ford blessed the space, and soon the rivers uncovered themselves. This is where we first met, Virtury, and you were the best of us. You spoke waterfall, raging current, flow of white water rapids, ocean breath. Lyricism leaked from your mouth, splashing us all in melodies and rhythm. But you weren't the type to get hyped in the awes of your own waters. Less tsunami and more water bearer of language. Verge, I was so unpolished back then. Felt foolish for thinking that I could swim, that I even belonged in the water. I cherished your words of encouragement, like glistening seashells, precious gifts of ocean. After graduation, we sailed off to new journeys. We drifted, but I always knew that waves, they find their way back home. I was in Boston when I learned of your passing. I imagined the vapors of a hot spring spitfire poet fading into a cold Brooklyn evening. None of us could fathom that water evaporates. I heard doctors discharge you too early, left you an unattended IV dripping empty. Words became a suffocating burden, the weight of Antarctica on my neck. Why am I still standing and you are missed? But then I saw you, greeting me as the morning dew on hundreds of daffodils at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. You are a boundless brilliance. I see you, Virtury, creating water cycle stanzas to feed the earth. I watch those daffodils stretch their stems up to greet you, petals open like hands in worship. Another reminder to stand tall, poet. Be proud of your stories. Be bold with the colors that you hold. Thank you for being one of the first people to believe in me. We weren't best friends, but we gave each other so much kindness and laughter. I've turned your gems of wisdom into my crowning achievements. I wish you could see this open canvas. I dive in, no hesitation. That open mic night on Myrtle Ave was my first of decades, and it feels like just yesterday. I still remember that you were the last poem of the night. In the end, you died a haiku. No more than 17 syllables old, gone, tied out of reach, memories left in seashells. I still hear you speak, because I know the difference between death and rebirth is location. The horizon is just another shoreline. I am sure of this. So until I see you again, I will visualize every rebel daring enough to resurrect the youth. And when I see raindrops carve poetry into the concrete, I'll be reassured that this life was only your first draft. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? That was wonderful, thank you. Thank you to Brookline Booksmith for hosting us, especially Megan O'Brien for coordinating all the event logistics, and the rest of the staff, thank you. To Daniel Johnson for putting together this cross-genre panel and inviting me to be part of it, to Usman for reading with us, and to all of you for being here. Thank you to my partner Raj for getting us here from Rochester and for all of his support and coaching. It's especially gratifying to be here because Brookline Booksmith hosted the launch for my first book, This Is One Way to Dance, but it was virtual because of the pandemic. So this is my first time coming to the store since the late 1990s. How to Make Your Mother Cry is a work of fiction. What began as a collection of short stories and letters grew into a braided narrative consisting of stories, letters, poems, and images. Besides thinking of the book as fiction, I also think of it as genre queer in that it doesn't have a straight orientation or belong to only one genre. First, I'd like to play a slideshow that begins with photos of the 5 people I dedicated my book to. Valerie Jean Boyd, James Wright Foley, Rana Zoe Munjin, Kirit Nathalal Shah, and Urvashi Bad. These photos are followed by the 20 images that are in How to Make Your Mother Cry. This book was my first time working with images. These images are not meant to be illustrations of the short stories, but rather their own secondary narrative juxtaposed against the short stories. The first piece from How to Make Your Mother Cry I'm going to read is a poem called The Granite State. It's a ghazal. A ghazal is a poetic form that originated in the Middle East and South Asia with roots in 7th century Arabia. Ghazals are often about love or mourning. A ghazal is composed of couplets with a repeating final word. In my poem, the repeating final word is memory. Like some of you, I've been lucky enough to have some important friendships that developed out of writing. One friend who came into my life through writing is the journalist James Foley. Jim was a classmate of mine in a graduate program in creative writing in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Though he was a talented fiction writer, Jim wanted to tell people's true stories, particularly those of civilians in war-torn areas. He moved into nonfiction writing and became a freelance conflict journalist. Jim wrote about the suffering of those who had no voice. He did this when American and international news outlets were not covering Syria and before there was any acknowledgement of the crisis that created millions of displaced refugees. Jim was taken hostage in Syria in 2012 and was later murdered by ISIS in August of 2014, a decade ago now. A few other things to know. Jim grew up in New Hampshire and his funeral was held in the small town of Rochester, New Hampshire. The title of my poem is taken from a video clip I saw of Jim on the Granite State Quiz Bowl Challenge, which was New Hampshire's quiz show for high school students on public access TV, a kind of academic Jeopardy very much from the 1980s. And 3, the state rock of New Hampshire is granite. This is the Granite State. I see you, Jim, at 17, on a VHS tape transferred to digital, and then my memory. A New Hampshire quiz show projected on your 41st birthday dinner, also your memorial. The drive back to Rochester, New York, from your Rochester, New Hampshire, is now autumnal memory. 9 hours of traffic on my birthday, the day after your birthday, also falls into memory. We are, both Libras. Scales balanced, not me. No one disliked you in my memory. Each state has a motto. Each state, a rock, a bird, a flower, a capital, an archive, a memory. Live free or die is the easiest, if from New England or a writer, to commit to memory. What is mine? The Empire State is not an image, nor anything to attach to memory. I knew you best in 2000, before I lost my heart, before the Towers Museum and Memorial. Empire is a building once tallest, then overtaken by towers, falling figures, and now memory. You were the tallest of Jim, Will, Brian, Chris, Yago, though 6'6" Dan was taller, one memory. Another is dancing with you salsa, our knees knocking into one another, my silly memory. Wikipedia tells me the state rock of New York is garnet, dark red, Adirondack memory. I want to not know the state rock of New Hampshire. I do. I carry this memory. I unearthed your workshop comments from a box in my parents' basement, doubting memory. You wrote 2 pages of comments, your name, then one last run-on, now cherished memory. I like the pathos you lay out there. Your writing is risky, barbs underneath the fleecy texture. This memory. I am pleased you call my writing risky. I will replace all other memories with this memory. I saw you, even younger, on Granite State Challenge. You guessed wrong, now tender memory. The celebration, candles lit and held, skits conjuring you, witness, repository of your memory. My fiance and I attended in one day your birthday party, your mass, your memorial. It was your wedding as well, our gathering, your reception. I did marry. I carry your memory. Next, I'm going to read a short excerpt from the longest story in How to Make Your Mother Cry. This story is called The Half King. It's about being young and trying to find your way, and also about love and friendship. The Half King was the name of a restaurant bar in Chelsea that was around for almost 2 decades and closed in 2019. It was a bar run by journalists and writers, including Sebastian Junger, and in fact, unrelated to my story, a gathering for Jim was held at the Half King when he got back from his first capture in Libya. This piece takes place across one evening at that bar. The narrator says at one point, quote, "What I have is an address book full of Half Kings, people I once loved." Emerson says, quote, "When the half gods go, the gods arrive," end quote. The Half King. If I have one more drink, this is what I'll see. Those of us who want to stay a little longer, stretch it out this night, who have some reason not to want to leave right away, and those who can let it go. See, it's just another night in a series of nights like this. Someone's birthday, someone's art opening, someone's dance performance downtown, and we're out afterwards. I catch myself watching the beautiful bartender again. I can't tell if she's 22 or 27, if she's from Ohio or Scarsdale or from Bergen County. I can't hear the mid-Atlantic vowel shift in her voice, since what we are doing is not talking, we are observing, we are interpreting. What she has is something I wish I had had, the knowledge that it is okay to use the fact that you're young and reasonably pretty. Now I see I was using it all along. I used to be afraid to hail a taxi, but the truth is that if I hesitated, someone else would step up to hail it for me. My hands are cold and I place them over the tea light flickering on the table. What I have is an address book full of Half Kings, people I once loved, people I still love. None of them are here at this table. Even those of us who are here, we can barely hear each other across that table. I sit there, stay, hand curved over the tea light, for another hour or two, trying to fix it all into place. I am making a picture to conjure for when I'm missing New York. Lime wedges suspended in Coronas, strands of white Christmas lights, still skinny ex-dancers, wooden booths scratched over with names, circles and circles of rings staining. The archaeologist drinking her seltzer. Postcards advertising lipstick or bands sticking to the bottom of our half-drained bottles for a moment before falling to the table. My blue shirt, the smell of smoke, the profile of Tana Grison on the far wall. I want to know the correct spellings and the preferred names. Growing up, we learned Iroquois. Now it's Haudenosaunee. I learn everything late. Maybe we learn everything late. I'm buying another round. I'm looking around. Everything I can see clearly is about to pass. I'm leaving, I say. I know tomorrow is another bad hangover waiting for me, but right now, the bar slowly clearing, the air outside sharpening. I can believe that the candle heating my hands, the oceanic shush of highway, our tangled arms and legs, that all of that is enough, and that I will grow out of it, the car outside, wanting Mark. I tell myself I can move back, that New York isn't a river rushing. And none of this lasts anyway. Not Carrie and me in a twin way, not Mark and me, not 21, not the possibility of Chris or any other nice guy smiling at me across the booth. Not what I want most of all, a bouquet of possibilities, the ship, which was once something else, choosing to return. This time, he would choose differently. And I tell myself after 30, so will I. And finally, I'm going to read an excerpt kind of from the middle to the end of the title story. So this is from How to Make Your Mother Cry. I will say that my mother was not a fan of the title of this story until I told her that it was fiction and that really this is a love story between mother and daughter. This is how to make your mother cry. 1, stop eating. 2, drink only orange juice. 3, cut your hair so that she has nothing to braid, so that she can no longer say that you look like her. 4, always answer in English. Even your French is better than your Gujarati. She doesn't mean to be mean, you understand this, but she laughs and you can't stand being laughed at. You stop using this other language, only ha and na, only gemcho to your grandmothers on the phone, only tamar tabiat pani gemcho to your grandfathers, and they will answer you in English. Perhaps it pains them to hear you slaughter your native tongue like that. Or perhaps they just want you to feel more at ease. 5, ask her why she left you there. You know why, she will say. I wanted you to learn these things. Bharatanatyam, shlokas. She will say, you ask the same things again and again. She says, we talk to you every week on the phone. She says, I mailed you your letters, your clothes. She says, India was further than it is now. We didn't have the money to just visit. We thought you were happy. You sounded happy. I didn't see my own mother for 7 years. Anyway, you can't change schools in the middle of the year. You didn't see her for 7 years, but I was only 7. You watch her eyes fill. I know I should have said something, but you would have noticed, Mother, if I was afraid to walk home by myself, if I squinted at workbook pages, if I inched closer to the TV. When you are 25, the professor, the one who gave you the wrong prompt, moves to Baltimore. When he is engaged to someone else, someone named Anne with an E or Anne without an E, you return to orange juice. You stop being able to swallow. On your meals of orange juice and coffee and shitty Merlot, you drop to 97 pounds. Boys comment on the lovely articulation of your clavicle bone, on the hollows of your face. Their glance lingers lovingly at your waist. You know they want to gather you in their meaty palms and braille their fingers over the relief of your ribs. You can't seem to get warm, and you can't remember things people tell you anymore. You give Blue Train away, along with several clothes and coffee cups. Everything you listen to is best of and on repeat. Your mother is the only one who says, if I could eat for you, I would. Eat, daughter, eat. You tell her, I'm only here because you wished for me. You wanted a girl. I know the story, you told it to me. I can't balance my checkbook. All boys leave for Baltimore. All boys get engaged. Well, did you expect him to wait, she asks. You only need one, she says, laughing. I didn't even like that one. If he got engaged to someone else, he can't be the right one. Besides, he wasn't even Indian. Now you're the one crying, and this is what you say. I'm no good at cooking. Who will want to marry an Indian girl who hates to cook? What if I made a mistake? Now there is only English on my tongue. Late at night, you will call Baltimore, ask him why he doesn't love you anymore. He will say sleepily that he does. He will move to the next room, and he will say that he thinks you shouldn't talk to each other so much anymore. He can see it's hard for you. Years later, this will still embarrass you. Years later still, this might make you mad. Tell her that you will be fine. This is never what you say. She gets on the next bus to Massachusetts. 10 hours later, she is in your apartment. She goes with you to the movie store where you rent Pretty in Pink and Better Off Dead. This is what American high school was like, you tell her. But you went to the prom, she says. We let you go, and you had a good time. She goes to the movie store and she makes you soup, potatoes and tomatoes and cumin. She goes to the pharmacy and to the store. You take the 5 pills she gives you, and finally, you sleep and sleep. You stop talking so much, and you are not so cold, and you sleep. I liked some boys once too, she says. Of course, that was before I was married, she says. You will be fine, she says. I am strong, and you will be strong like me. You are my daughter, she says. No one else's. Now both of you have bright eyes. I can teach you, she says, to balance your checkbook. It's not that hard, she says. Cooking is easy, she says. You just have to be hungry. You just have to practice. Hold on to your receipts, she says. I want you to be strong for when I'm gone, she says. Don't leave me, Mom, you say. That's my job, she says, to make you ready. Can you stay a little while longer, Mom? Yes, but get out your bank statements. Let's work on your checkbook. But I want you to understand Pretty in Pink. Why, she says. We already watched it. But did you like it? I want you to like Coltrane. He's saying something important. All that noise, I'd rather talk to you. I could show you how to knit. What's wrong with silence? Nothing, but I like this song, Afro Blue. It's pretty to me. Marumatu dukeche. Daughter, my head hurts. If you have to play it low.
Okay, then we good with the media. I'm Daniel Johnson. I'll be sharing work from Shadow Act and Elegy for journalist James Foley. Thank you, Megan, Kaylee, and the Brookline Booksmith team Thank you for being such a wonderful partner to poets, writers, and readers. Usman and Sejal, it's so wonderful to share this mic with you. Usman I got to know and love and work closely with through Mass Poetry. He's our board chair. He's a great poet, scientist, and community leader. Sejal and I got to know each other actually in the wake of Jim Foley's passing, and I know I love your hustle, your book, and I know Jimmy is smiling down. I got to know James Foley, and I knew him for about 20 years. Later in his life, as Sejal mentioned, he turned to conflict reporting. He was captured once in Libya by Gaddafi's forces. Freed, he went back to the Middle East to report on the Arab Spring, was captured a second time, this time in Syria, was missing for nearly 2 years before being executed by ISIS in Syria. Writing Shadow Act, sharing this multimedia tribute, it's my intent to honor his life and legacy, not to foreground his tragic death. He was much more than his terrible end. And in this, if all goes well, and I know it will, multimedia piece, I'll share poems, you'll hear the voice of my wife, Abele, who's in the back, who sings beautifully. There's some photos, and also some video clips of James Foley's war reporting. And you'll see some images. When Jim was captured in Libya, he smuggled 5 pages out in his shoe, and there are some images of that as well. This is for Jimmy. Tell me about a complicated man, muse. Tell me how he wandered and was lost. The night we slept with our windows open, we woke to yellow leaves littering the bedroom floor, filling our wine cups, puddling in our shoes. Our room shone the color of an autumn swamp, a slash of red where a boat moved off. We waited for her. She crossed an expanse. We charted her course. She came by boat on a Tuesday. Rather, she came by knife and traveled light. We called her Chance. We'd call her Olana. She came on a Tuesday, bright knife. Winter daughter. Flags slap in slanting rain, and the trees on Poplar Street tremble like cranial nerves. To keep the heat, I seal off our bedroom windows with plastic sheeting. Even then, we bicker over 1 or 2 degrees. A cry strikes flint in the half-light. Abele clutches our newborn, curses the draft. We have known and been cold before, I think. Better yet, I will teach our winter daughter, I will teach our daughter Winter to swig scotch from a flask, to pull through ice, a thrashing pike. Photograph, Roslindale, 2010. Standing in our kitchen, Jim clutches Olana at 6 months to his chest like a bundle of forwarded mail. The top of Olana's pink knit hat crests above his shoulder. Jim cracks a toothy gambler's grin. It's his mother's smile and her mother's smile before that. These things, they're neither created nor destroyed. I first met James Foley when we signed on to become teachers in Teach for America. We shipped out to Phoenix, Arizona. I would be teaching 5th and 6th grade bilingual students. Jim would be teaching middle school history. Despite our teacher boot camp, things quickly took a turn for the worse in our classrooms. On day one, somehow, I ran out of lesson plans by noon. On day 150 or so, Jim chucked a piece of chalk at Antonio to get his attention. I can still hear the boom, boom, boom of Albert's size 10 sneakers striking my classroom door. Across town, gym students banded together to create the We Hate Mr. Foley Club. When we should have been grading papers, when we should have been drafting lesson plans, we passed back poems and stories. Together, we made a pact to become writers. Homecoming. When Maureen stepped out, Jim sacked her closet for a candy-striped tube-top A-line skirt, size 10, nude pumps, plum lip gloss, bangles, and a boar bristle brush to push through his gel-back chestnut hair. He let loose a slimming breath and wriggled inch by inch into the spandex top, broad shoulders busting stitches, dusted his cheeks with champagne blush, and rounded up his tawdry gaggle of first-time drag queens, wobbly in heels. "Vámonos, chicas," he commanded while passing a flask of tequila before speeding off to Sky Harbor Airport. Rick, matronly, reeking of Chanel, sparked up a Camel Light. Dawn, svelte, head shaved, penciled in a smoky, wavering brow. The bright August heat kissed away Jim's foundation. Drivers gawked. A trucker on the Hohocom honked and blew a lilting kiss. When I stepped off my Pittsburgh flight, high-pitched cries of "DJ! Oh! DJ!" sang out from the waiting area. Like a welcoming committee of eunuchs and hornbill cranes, I wheeled round only to be swallowed by a swarm of kisses, pinches, linebacker hugs, falsetto cries, and beefy fingers mussing my bottle blonde hair. That was the summer of my solo trip to Spain, summer of my mother's diagnosis, summer of waking to find mom gone in her bathrobe to be returned only by local police. I wanted to be flayed, wanted to be saved. We headed off to baggage claim where Dawn lay, spread eagle in a white jersey dress, circling the baggage carousel, where Rick, in a black evening gown and beaded beret, plucked my bags from the carousel. And Jim pulled up curbside, windows cranked down, his VW Fox, booming Tribe Called Quest. In the summer of 1998, this is what it meant to be blessed. To be spirited away by B-grade drag queens down Camelback in Indian school, to pass a joint its tip gone pink with lipstick, and evanesce in a mist of jasmine, iris, amber, and sandalwood.
Who are the Libyan rebels, determined to overthrow 42 years of dictatorship? Some say they're mujahideen and are fighting in the name of Islam. Men pray on the front lines as others launch rockets. Others seem like everyday citizens, picking up arms in the name of democracy and for a better life.
I work as an accountant. I have a small company. I left my work and my family came here with our brothers' forces to take our freedom. We try to take our freedom and we're looking for better lives.
I am welder, welding offshore platform. Yeah.
Okay. Dangerous job.
Like now.
Too dangerous.
They're brave as individuals, but many show a dangerous lack of weapons training. suffered heavy casualties, but seem to have inflicted their share as well. Their personalities, who flash V for victory and a slit throat for their enemy.
When?
Good luck, good luck.
When?
My people never have experience to fighting.
They're dedicated volunteers who retreat in the face of heavy fire.
Shut up.
How close is that?
My head, you're Duffy.
And celebrate when a city is taken. They are acquiring heavier weapons and have been joined by army brigades that have defected from Gaddafi. Still, as they continue to gain and lose ground each day in this fluid desert war, NATO airstrikes have proven to be the only firepower that can effectively allow the combined rebel army into Gaddafi's territory.
We've been hated from the world. Whenever we go, once you say I'm Libyan, everyone gets scared out here, you know. Thinking that we have bombs in our pockets and things like this.
More than anything, they want to be given the chance to defeat Gaddafi themselves and to be a part of a world that is now on their side.
I'll share an excerpt from James Foley's Libyan prison journal dated April 2012. This is in James Foley's voice. We went to Brega on April 5th to get close to the front lines. We never imagined how our lives would change. Our foolishness gives me nightmares. We got in a red bus and drove ahead to the last checkpoint. Some teams told us Gaddafi troops were 300 meters away, but we thought it was impossible. Now that Jim's gone but not gone, here but not here, I sit from time to time in front of these letters that he smuggled out of a Libyan prison in his shoe. I let my eyes roam the teeming sea of words, the script dizzyingly small. Again, the voice of James Foley. We watched the scout bus and some pickup trucks drive 200 meters more and turn when two Gaddafi trucks came firing. We pressed ourselves close to the ground as bullets zipped overhead. I heard Anton yell, "Help, help," but I couldn't even raise my head. I yelled, "Are you okay?" He said, "No." More bullets. I called again. Nothing. If you look closely, numbers 1 through 4 pepper the body of the text, suggesting that Jim penned page 1 of this letter over 4 sessions during his 44-day captivity. The first page you can see has been creased down the middle between the 2 columns and 3 times vertically so that Jim could fold and hide the letter in his shoe. There's an epigraph, PBS NewsHour, May 18th, 2011, 4 foreign reporters, including Global Post Foley, freed in Libya. The governor dubbed it James Foley Day. We toasted Jim in a white party tent, hoisting a beer bottle. He said, "I went to see the elephant. I drank gin and tonics on that perfect lawn." Jim held Olana in his arms. "Come with me, sweetie," he whispered. "I'll take you if you want to go see the elephant." We toasted Jim in a white party tent. He stared off and through us like he saw something we couldn't. A flashing mirror, a wisp of smoke, whatever it was, he didn't say. Jim's mom handed him gifts for each of the guests. I couldn't open mine for a year. We toasted Jim in a white party tent. The governor dubbed it James Foley Day. "I'd love to stay," he explained, "but I've got to get back to see the elephant." To scratch an ashen line on the wall, to record events on paper, these acts alone now tether me to Jim across space and time. What's the distance between us now from the moment Jim wrote these letters? 4,446 miles and 3,439 days, or 9 years, 6 months, and 29 days.
Hey, Jonathan. Hey, brother. I'm picking up delivery tomorrow. Just want to check in, covering a couple of stores and the anniversary. And then I'll be back in May. We got some floor projects to auction, more invitations in New York. How's it out? So it's looking better. Hope all's well, man. I know it is. And happy Valentine's Day. Feel what I'm a little hard for me. I'll try to catch you on Skype when I'm over there, bud. All right, take care.
They say New Hampshire man. They say James Foley. They say at the hands of the Islamic State. Thanksgiving Day, they say Syria, they say unmarked car and caliphate. It is unclear, they say it is apparent. They say freelance reporter, they say James Foley. They say black-clad captor and knife, it is still possible, they say it is reported. They say faded yellow, they say ribbon and priest, they say James Foley. They say, we believe.
Shining door, I long to hear you away, your rolling river. Oh, shining door, I long to hear you away. We're bound away across the wide Missouri. It's been 7 long years since I last saw you away, rolling river. It's been 7 long years since I last saw you away. We're bound away across the wide Missouri. Oh, shining door, I long to see you away, rolling river. Oh, shining door, I long to see you away. We're bound away across the wide Missouri.
For Abele. My head bowed above the bone-white bowl of the sink. Abele runs clippers over my scalp and neck before work, teasing, there's hardly anything to cut. Shearing small clumps of hair like batting from an old pillow or the gray down of a new goose. Married for years, it's the first time she's cut my hair. Luca and Olana look on, my wife's braids fall on my neck. Every act has a shadow act. Run it up and down, I offer, don't make it streaky. Since the baby's still asleep, she hurries in her work and worries aloud the chattering blades will nick my neck. As Abella's hand passes over me, I think again of Jim. Before his beheading, his captors shaved him like this. Then I feel once more my wife finger the spray of freckles and liver spots, softly chiding, wear more sunscreen, love. Finished, she kisses my nape. For every act, shadow act, the baby's now awake. I offer to pay my wife, and she laughs, a girlish laugh. Days after Jim's execution, while sitting blankly in my sun-baked study, I cracked the unabridged journals of Sylvia Plath to find this feral inscription scrawled inside. DJ, fuck it, believe, Jimmy 06. Mostly I take this message as a sign to carry on with my writing, and others I suppose it signals not to slam the door on God entirely. Jim never did. Deep in the unabridged journals, Plath muses, let me live, love, and say it well with good sentences. After a photograph of James Foley reading the U.S. Army bunker, Kunar Province, Afghanistan, 2010. Back propped against a mammoth wall of sandbags, you're reading Let the Great World Spin, combat helmet cast off, aviator sunglasses set back on your head. I sit here thinking about how much courage it takes to live an ordinary life. Legs crossed, you're wearing the pants your mom watched you Christmas last. Your eyes gaze down at the page, lips slightly apart, a week's goatee sprouts. There is, I think, a fear of love. There is a fear of love. Minus the shelling in the distance, the flak jacket yoked around your neck. You could be reading at a cane chair, at a cafe anywhere. Phoenix, Pilsen, Istanbul, Mexico City. The world spins, we stumble on. Serene as it seems, images flit and ghost across the page. A gunner shot in the head on a high mountain pass floats above Philippe Petit, now reclining on the wire, now upright. I was really trying to pray, get rid of my lust, rediscover that innocence, circle of circles. You stole my books, Jim. I stole yours, 50-50. You're reading a copy. You filched from me. We never said what we meant outright. Read this, we said instead. You gotta fucking read this.
It's been a night, such a long night. Watch myself disappear into the wild side. Say goodbye to my high side. Saw some Jekyll appear. Every road that's wrong seems like the road I'm on. Every side just seems unclear. Won't you come switch me on? Don't know where I've gone, and I wish I was here.
So to close, I'd like to mention all proceeds from the sales of Shadow Act will benefit the James Foley Legacy Foundation, founded by Diane Foley, James' mom, doing amazing work to free U.S. hostages held abroad, instrumental in bringing some of the most recent hostages that were returned. And then lastly, just to share some thanks, thank you, Ballet, my wife in the back there. Can you give a little wave? Thank you guys. We do this longer piece, which is 45 minutes, where she sings live, and it's I hope we get to do it at the Boston Book Festival. We'll see what they say. McSweeney's and my agent, Lemmy Strothman, and other folks who are instrumental in making Shadow Act possible. How are we doing on time, Kaylee? Are we at the signing part? Is it time for a question or what? Signing?
Yeah,
I'll turn it back over to you. Hey, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you all for coming tonight. This has been very wonderful. So we do have books for sale over at the register behind you, and all of the books are pre-signed, but if you would like them personalized, our authors will be here for a little while longer. Thank you for coming.